How green was my valley. Movies have the ability to expand our world, allow us to find unseen beauty, and even foster compassion for our own struggles and those of others. How Green Was My Valley is among those rare films that manages to do all three. Exquisitely filmed, this tender drama set in a Welsh coal mining town displays the joys and sorrows of childhood and the disillusionment of life. The film is simple, powerful, and a true cinematic work of art bound to leave an emotional impact. It was nominated for 10 Oscar Awards and won 5. At the film's center is Hugh Morgan, the youngest of 7 children. He narrates the film as an adult, and How Green Was My Valley is an affectingly sentimental flashback of his childhood in the late 19th century. The film opens as Hugh says, I am packing my belongings in the shawl my mother used to wear when she went to the market, and I am going from my valley, and this time I shall never return. I am leaving behind me my 50 years of memory. And thus, our journey begins as we watch Hugh among his kindred family in his idyllic town with its tight knit community. His father and 5 older brothers all work in the coal mine like most of the men in the village, while his mother and sister tend to the home and men. In this paradise of flowered fields and clear skies, Hugh befriends the village pastor, watches siblings marry, sees brothers lose jobs, and watches the town divide over the idea of a labor union. As he slowly loses his innocence and sense of harmony, so do his surroundings. The coal begins to blacken the valley and sky as his community and family begin to crumble. Sometimes bleak, sometimes joyous. The narrative is always told from the heart as it quickly flows in a dreamlike state. The lyrical magic of How Green Was My Valley potently reflects in love, family, hard times, injustice, and the people and times that have touched us and have gone. Based on 1930 Richard Llewellyn best-selling British novel, producer and 20th Century Fox executive and co-founder bought film rights to the book. After a couple of unsuccessful versions of the script, he hired screenwriter Philip Dunne to rewrite it by downplaying the book's labor conflicts and amping up the family aspect. William Wyler was hired to direct. Filming was to take place in color on location in Wales, and the proposed cast included Catherine Hepburn, Greer Garson, and Tyrone Power. World War II changed everything. Wales was a major bombing target for the Nazis, and the expense of the film and fear of the book's pro Union ideas, a hot topic at the time, led to the studio shelving the film. Determined to make it, the producer persisted and presented the film to direct John Ford, who accepted. Ford's involvement was enough for the studio to once again greenlight the film. Once John Ford came aboard, How Green Was My Valley's script was shortened. It was no longer a big budget epic, now to be shot in black and white, and no major stars were cast. Such is the creative process. The film was made in stressful times just before the US entered World War II, and it offered audiences a sense of family and hope. It was a resounding success. This intimate yet sprawling film is the work and vision of director John Ford. Considered by many to be the greatest director in the history of cinema, How Green Was My Family showcases Ford's artistic storytelling genius to full extent. It is not the dialogue that resonates, but the situations and emotions created by John Ford's visuals. An expert at composition, Ford fills the frames over and over with stunning imagery, often filling fore, middle, and background with informative and emotive designs. A prime example is the first time he shows the crowd of men coming down the hill from the mine. As they leave the colliery and funnel into the village en masse, singing in unison in Welsh, we immediately grasp the setting and its united working class community while being visually awestruck. Spellbinding images like these are unforgettable and are part of Ford's uniquely poetic directing style. He was known for capturing his characters in long shots enveloped by locations, whether a room or a hillside. There is very little camera movement in the film as his expressive angles are so masterful. They show us everything we need to see while evoking emotion. With his choices of camera angles, lighting, and attention to details, Ford can make the simplest shot explode with personality. Whether it be Hugh or Mr. Griffith standing in a field of daffodils, or a bride walking down a church aisle while women extend their hands to feel her dress as she passes. Ford manages to constantly keep the story moving, never ceasing to provide evocative imagery. Although based on a book, Ford claimed How Green Was My Valley was autobiographical. There were some similarities. Ford was born to Irish immigrants. He was the youngest of their 11 children, and like Hugh, he was bedridden, where he discovered books such as Treasure Island. Perhaps he felt Hugh represented a part of him, and what emerged is considered Ford's most personal film. How Green Was My Valley launched the careers of three actors. One was Roddy McDowell, who plays Hugh Morgan. Unlike other child actors at the time, McDowell was not polished or Hollywood cute, but was a bit awkward and real. His is the standout, heart stealing performance, and because of that, Hugh is the heart and soul of the film. He has intelligence, sensitivity, sweetness, emotion, and a kind of wisdom, all while still a young and naive boy. His authentic innocence and simplicity is astounding, whether looking adoringly at his newly wed sister in law, Browen, or trying to get his father's attention while alone with him at the dinner table. On the strength of McDowell's screen test, it was decided the character of Hugh would remain a boy in the film, and the script was rewritten to reflect this. Thus, we hear Hugh's voice as an adult but only see the character as a boy. Thank you very much. The movie opens with Morgan's family. The Morgans are a mining family in the South Wales Valley during the late Victorian era. Hugh, the youngest son of William Morgan, walks home with his father to meet his mother, Beth. His older brothers, Lanto, Ivor, Davy, William Jr., and Owen all work in the coal mines with their father, while sister Angaharat keeps house with their mother. Hugh's childhood is idyllic. The town, not yet overrun with mining spoil, is beautiful. The household is warm and loving, and the miners sing as they walk home. At the boisterous wedding of his eldest brother with Browen, his sister Angaharad meets the new preacher, Mr. Griffith, and there is an obvious mutual attraction. Trouble begins when the mine owners decreases wages and the miners strike in protest. Hugh's father, William's attempt to mediate by not endorsing a strike estranges him from the other miners as well as his older sons who leaves home. Hugh's mother, Beth, interrupts a late night meeting of the strikers, threatening to kill anyone who harms her husband. She and Hugh head across the fields in a snowstorm in the dark to return home. On their way home, the strikers hear Hugh calling for help. They rescue Beth and Hugh from the river. Beth has temporarily lost the use of her legs, and the doctor fears that Hugh, who has also lost the use of his legs, will never walk again. He eventually recovers with the help of preacher Mr. Griffith, which further endears Griffith to Angaharad. The strike is eventually settled, and William and his sons reconcile, yet many miners have lost their jobs. The exceptionally beautiful Angaharad is courted by the mine owner's son, Lestin Evans, though she loves Mr. Griffith, the preacher. Mr. Griffith loves her too, to the malicious delight of the gossipy townswomen, but cannot bear to subject her to the hard Spartan life of an impoverished minister of religion. Angaharat submits to a loveless marriage to Evans and they relocate out of the country. Hugh begins school at a nearby village. Abused by other boys, he is taught to fight by boxer Dal Bando and his crony Grifartha. After a beating by the cruel teacher Mr. Jonas, Dal Bando avenges Hugh with an impromptu boxing display on Mr. Jonas to the delight of his pupils. Bronwen learns her husband Ivor has been killed in a mine accident. The shock causes her to go into labor and she gives birth to a son. Later, two of Hugh's elder brothers are dismissed in favor of less experienced, cheaper laborers. With no job prospects, they leave to seek their fortune in America. Hugh is awarded a scholarship to university, but to his father's dismay, he refuses it to work in the mines. He relocates with Browen, his sister-in-law, to help provide for her and her child. When Angaharad returns without her husband, vicious gossip of an impending divorce spreads through the town. It is eventually announced there will be a meeting at the deacons to discuss, denounce, and excommunicate Angaharad. This prospect enrages the preacher, Mr. Griffith, for he knows she has done nothing other than return home from Cape Town without her husband. After condemning the deacon's small mindedness, he storms out before the meeting, intent on leaving the town. That evening, the alarm whistle sounds, signaling another mine disaster. Several men are injured, and Hugh's father, William, and others are trapped in a cave in. Mr. Griffith catches sight of Angaharad, who has rushed to the mine for word of her father. As she looks pleadingly at him, he calls, "Who is for William Morgan and the others?" Young Hugh, Mr. Griffith, and Dai Bando, the boxer, descend with other volunteers to rescue the remaining miners. Hugh and his father are briefly reunited before his father succumbs to his injuries. Above, in the cold of the light dawn, the women of the family, Hugh's sister Angaharad, his sister-in-law Browen, and his mother Beth Morgan, has stood vigil all night. The sound of the pulley announces the lift is returning from the depths of the mine. Hugh is cradling his father's body, his coal blackened face devoid of youthful innocence. Thank you very much.